Here's how to win with a rook and two pawns that are connected versus a rook, and it's actually more complicated than it looks. There are also a few stalemate tricks. Knight and rook pawns are the more difficult among the connected pawns. Some strategies are to keep the pawns connected, don't allow blockades, and don't allow the king to be without cover. G4 is also fine. And now rook f1 is played. But let's look at rook a4. And king h4. G5 is winning, but as well, but you want to avoid cutting the king off in the lines. Now here's how you advance pawns in this situation. And you can't play G5 yet because of the pin. And rook to B4. Alternatively, rook A1. And king G5 stops the checks. And G5. So this is part of the winning method. And let's go back to the main line of the game. And now king to G4. This prepares a check on D6 to push the enemy king back. And rook F2 is played. Let's take a look at rook A1. Okay, back to rook F2. And king to E7 is played. King to G7, king to G5. And if king to E5, then rook A6, and black king is out of play. And now rook A6. So it's good to create checking distance. This prepares the move G4. King F7 is played, but let's also look at rook B4 check. And rook H2 is met by king G5. H6 is played. G5 is not good because rook B4 and the king is cut off from the pawns. Also, instead of H6, rook A7 is good. This gets mated. King F6 is not good. So king F5, but if king E6, then H6 is winning. So this line is good for white. So possibly better after rook a7 check is king h8. This will lead to the main line anyway. So h6 is white. So again, there's a pattern of keeping the pawns connected and then using the g pawn to shield from checks. Rook b5 is played. But also if they check through rook h2, then king to g5. So maintaining the pin on the fifth rank is the best idea for the defender. And so rook b7 gets mated. And king h8. Let's look at king g8. So here's one stalemate trick. And this draws. So instead of h7 check, and king h8 is better than king f8. And so white's king is in front of the pawns now and controlling the h8 and g8 squares. So this is going to be automatically winning. Black needs to stay in front of the pawns. And now rook e7 is the best idea, and this will transpose to the main line game. But also to be aware of is king to g6 and this draws. Also, if you don't take the rook and you play king f6, this is still a draw. So after rook a7 check and king h8 instead of g8, rook e7 is the key idea. So there's 3 points to this move, rook e7. First, you're going to eventually move the king to f7, and this will help advance the pawns. Also, this will stop checks along the seventh rank. Let's say the white king moves to f6, then after rook to c6 check, this is going to be blocked with rook to e6. And thirdly, the winning strategy for white is to move the pawn to g6 and then eventually move their king to either f7 or d7. So with the pawns on g6 and h6, black will have to play rook to c8 and guard the eighth rank. And after the white king is on f7 or d7, then with the rook on the eighth rank defending against the back rank checkmate, then white can play rook d8 check and trade the rooks. With two connected passed pawns, that's winning. And rook c8 is played. Another line to look at is king to g8. So here was one of the ideas behind rook e7 to block the check. Also possible here is rook f8, but king e7 was going to be played anyway. And this is the winning idea in the main line. Also, instead of move 18 rook to d6 here, it's possible to play h7 check. And this will produce a win after king h6 and g7 mate. Here we have the position after pawn h7, king h8. And now we're going to look at two diagrams, and the first one is going to be this position, except if it were black to move instead of white to move. So these are some traps to be aware of in these positions. And then we'll continue with the main line. So here is an attempt to stalemate, and now if rook takes b6, it's a draw, but instead g7, and then take the rook. And here's a similar position, except it's different than in the main line and the last diagram because the rook is not on e6, so the winning plan of king g5 to h6 and g7 checkmate does not work. So here rook to b6 check and king to f5, king to g5 leads to the same thing, stalemate, and rook f6. So back to the main line. So after rook to c8, the main line is g6. If h7, then you have rook to c7, and this is a stalemate. And if rook to e6, then king takes h7. So it's important to remember to only advance your pawns if you know that there's no stalemate traps. Instead of rook c8, then rook to c5. This doesn't really make much of a difference because the king is still heading where it wants to go. So after rook c8, king to e6, and the idea again is to play king to d7 and rook to e8, trading the rooks. And rook to d7. Now with the idea of king e7 and rook d8 check. So actually, in this position, King f7 is not great because of the stalemate possibilities. So after Rook f8 check, I'm not taking the Rook because that's stalemate, but moving back to e6. So Rook to d7. Another idea, which is now possible, is Rook to g8 gets mated. And Rook to g8. If Rook f8, then King d7. And the idea is to play Rook to d8. And g7 check is winning. Rook to e7 is not very good. This just delays the win. Another good strategy here would be to play Rook to d5. The point is now the black rook has to move, and this allows King to e7 and Rook to d8. So Rook a8 was played, but if Rook f8 checked, then King e7. So Rook d5, Rook a8, King e7, and then Rook a7 check. G7 was played in the game, so we're going to look at pawn to G7 instead of Rook to D5. And King to F8, 1-0. The winning method is as follows. Advance the pawns together, avoid blockades, make sure the king and pawns are close together, and also use the pawns to shield the king from check. Push the enemy king back to the back rank, and once they're there, move your own rook to the 7th rank, and then move it to the middle of the board, close to your pawns. Then advance the pawns to the 6th rank, and then bring your king to the 7th rank, and move your rook to the 7th to prevent checks, and then move the rook to the 8th rank to exchange the rooks, and then it's a king and 2 pawns versus king. Chess Kings aims to provide quality chess programs for people of all ages. If you'd like this video and want to see more, consider donating to Chess Kings by going to our website and clicking the donate button. Buy my book, The Real Beginner's Guide to Chess, available on Amazon for $14.99. And remember to like and subscribe.